Look, I've been a Madrid fan for years, and I've seen bad stretches before, but what's happening right now is something else entirely. We're talking about the most successful club in football history getting knocked out of the Copa del Rey by a second division side. Let me repeat that. Albacete, a team that plays in the Segunda División, just beat Real Madrid 3-2 at home, and this wasn't even some fluke early in the season. This was Álvaro Arbeloa's first game as manager after Xabi Alonso got sacked. The timing couldn't be worse, and honestly the whole thing feels like we're watching a once great empire crumble in real time. The Albacete defeat happened on January 14, just 2 days after Alonso was fired. Jefté Betancourt scored in the 4th minute of stoppage time to complete his brace and send us packing. Think about that for a second. A striker nobody outside Spain had heard of before yesterday just became the hero who eliminated Real Madrid from a major competition. The squad that started included Vinicius Jr., but stars like Mbappe, Bellingham, Courtois, and Rodrigo were all rested because apparently we thought we could coast through this match. That arrogance is precisely what's killing this team right now. Dani Carvajal came out after the match asking fans for forgiveness, which tells you everything about where we are mentally. When your captain is apologizing before we're even halfway through January, you know things are catastrophically wrong. But this Copa del Rey disaster didn't happen in a vacuum. The real story begins with the Spanish Super Cup final on January 11th, just 3 days before the Albacete humiliation. Barcelona beat us 3-2 in Saudi Arabia, and Rafinha was the one who twisted the knife. He scored twice, with his winner in the 73rd minute coming in the most frustrating way possible. He slipped while shooting, the ball deflected off Raúl Asensio, and fooled Thibaut Courtois completely. That's the kind of luck that goes against you when you're in a downward spiral. The first half ended in absolute chaos with 3 stoppage time goals. We equalized twice, through Vinicius and Gonzalo Garcia, but Robert Lewandowski and Rafinha kept pushing Barcelona ahead. Mbappe came on in the 76th minute after missing the semi-final with a knee issue, but even he couldn't save us. Barcelona's midfielder Frenkie de Jong got sent off in stoppage time, yet we still couldn't capitalize on having an extra man. That Super Cup loss was the final straw for Xabi Alonso. Less than 24 hours after landing back in Madrid, the club announced his departure by mutual agreement. Mutual agreement is corporate speak for you're fired. Alonso lasted exactly 233 days as Real Madrid manager. He came in during the summer of 2025, with all the hype in the world. This was the guy who took Bayer Leverkusen from a relegation fight to winning their first ever Bundesliga title without losing a single match all season. He won the German Cup too, and reached the Europa League final. He was supposed to be the next big thing in coaching, a tactical genius who could modernize Madrid's play while respecting the club's values. Instead, he's gone before we even reached February, and Álvaro Arbeloa, who was coaching the Castilla B team just days ago, is now in charge of the first team. The January 4 match against Real Betis showed what this team could be under Alonso. We demolished them 5-1 at the Bernabeu. Gonzalo Garcia scored a perfect hat-trick with his left foot, right foot, and head. Raúl Asensio and Fran Garcia added 2 more. That performance felt like a statement. The problem is that statement lasted exactly 4 days. We beat Atletico Madrid 2-1 in the Super Cup semi-final on January 8, but that match was unconvincing. We were fortunate to win, and anyone watching could see the cracks forming. Then came Barcelona in the final, and everything fell apart. The real poison in this situation wasn't just results. Alonso's relationship with Vinicius Jr. became toxic, and when your relationship with arguably your most important player becomes public knowledge, you're finished at a club like Real Madrid. The breaking point came during the October El Clasico. We actually won that match 2-1, which should have been Alonso's crowning achievement. Instead, everyone remembers Vinicius storming off the pitch in the 72nd minute after being substituted. Television cameras caught him shouting in Spanish. Reports translated his outburst as yelling that he should just leave the team, that it would be better if he left. This wasn't some private moment that got leaked. This happened in front of 80,000 people at the Bernabeu during the biggest match of the season. The Athletic reported that Vinicius was one of 3 senior players unconvinced by Alonso's methods, but Vinicius was at the center of the situation and the fallout. When he issued his public apology on social media, he deliberately left out any mention of Alonso's name. That omission was noticed by everyone. It was a clear message that while he might regret his outburst, he didn't respect the manager. ESPN sources revealed that Vinicius believed Alonso wasn't being fair to him, particularly regarding playing time and substitutions. The Brazilian had been left out of the starting lineup 3 times early in the season against Real Oviedo, Getafe, and Marseille. For someone who expects to be the team's star, being benched felt like a personal attack. The conflict started even earlier, back during the Club World Cup in July. Multiple sources told ESPN that Alonso's handling of Vinicius during the team's time in the United States upset the player significantly. Alonso first experimented with playing Vinicius on the right wing instead of his natural left side. Then he planned to drop him entirely for the semi-final against Paris Saint-Germain, before a late injury reshuffle forced him to change his plans. We lost that semi-final 4-0, which was the first massive red flag that maybe Alonso wasn't the right fit. When you alienate your best player before the season even properly starts, you're setting yourself up for disaster. President Florentino Perez and other senior executives executives questioned the wisdom of Alonso's approach, especially with Vinicius's contract expiring in 2027 and renewal negotiations in the balance. Reports emerged that Vinicius was hesitant to discuss a contract extension while his relationship with Alonso remained strained. Jude Bellingham and Federico Valverde were also reportedly among the key players who didn't believe in Alonso's methods, even though others like Kylian Mbappe, Arda Güler and Aurelien Tchouameni supported him. When half your dressing room is behind you and half isn't, you're managing on borrowed time. Alonso wanted to implement his ideas from Leverkusen, things like improved punctuality, changes to daily routines, and restricting outside figures at the training ground. These changes weren't well received by senior players who had been doing things their own way for years under Carlo Ancelotti. The club also didn't give him the signings he wanted. He desperately wanted Martin Zubimendi, who he had worked with at Real Sociedad, but the club didn't think that signing was necessary, and Zubimendi ended up joining Arsenal instead. Alonso got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Dean Huijsen, Alvaro Carreras and Franco Mastantuono, but none of them were the tempo-setting midfielder he needed for his system. The results tell their own damning story. Alonso won 13 of his first 14 matches, which had everyone convinced we'd found our next great manager. Then reality hit. From early November to mid-December, we won only 2 of 8 matches. We lost at home to Celta Vigo 2-0, which was embarrassing enough. But then Atletico Madrid thrashed us 5-2 in the derby. Liverpool beat us 1-0 in the Champions League at Anfield. Manchester City came to the Bernabeu and won 2-1. These weren't narrow defeats to slightly better teams on the day. These were systematic dismantlings that showed Alonso's tactics simply weren't working at the highest level. His final record was 22 wins, 4 draws and 5 defeats in 34 games across all competitions. The team scored 76 goals but conceded 24. Those numbers look decent on paper until you realize we're supposed to be competing for every trophy, not scraping through with a 70% win rate while our biggest rivals are running away with La Liga. Barcelona are currently 4 points ahead of us in the league standings, and that gap feels insurmountable given our current form. We're second in La Liga, which sounds respectable until you remember this is Real Madrid. Second place is failure. In the Champions League, we're sitting 7th in the league phase table after 6 matches under Alonso, with 4 wins total. That positioning is fine for qualification, but it's hardly the dominant performance you expect from defending European champions. The Copa del Rey elimination to Albacete means we're out of that competition entirely. We already lost the Spanish Super Cup. By mid-January, we've effectively lost 2 trophies and are trailing in a third. The only competition where we still have realistic hopes is the Champions League, and given how we've looked against top opponents like Liverpool and Manchester City, even that feels optimistic. Arbeloa taking over doesn't inspire much confidence either, though I'll admit it's too early to judge him fairly. He's been coaching in the Real Madrid youth system since 2020 and took charge of Castilla in June 2025. He has 0 experience managing a senior professional team outside the club's academy structure. He's never worked outside of Valdebebas, the training ground. His entire coaching career has been insulated within the Madrid bubble. As a player, he was solid. He made 238 appearances for Real Madrid across 7 years as a right-back between 2009 and 2016. He won 2 Champions League titles during one of the most successful periods in club history. He was part of the Spanish squad that won the 2010 World Cup and 2 European Championships. Those credentials earn him respect, but respect doesn't automatically translate to tactical acumen or man management skills at the elite level. Fabrizio Romano reported that Arbeloa plans to move away from Alonso's model and follow Carlo Ancelotti's style of coaching instead. That means emphasizing man management and making sure the dressing room actually listens to the manager rather than introducing radical tactical changes. It's basically an admission that Alonso lost the players and that the priority now is restoring some basic harmony rather than implementing a grand vision. Whether Arbeloa can actually command authority with players like Vinicius, Mbappe and Bellingham remains to be seen. These are superstars who just watched the previous manager get fired, partially because they didn't respect him. Why should they respect Arbeloa, who has achieved nothing as a manager? The season isn't over. We're still in the Champions League with a realistic path through the knockout rounds. We're still close enough in La Liga that a strong run of form could bring us back into contention, especially if Barcelona stumble. But right now, in this moment, it feels like we're sleepwalking toward mediocrity. The standards at this club are supposed to be higher than anywhere else. We don't rebuild, we reload. We don't accept transition periods, we demand excellence immediately. Yet here we are, getting knocked out by Albacete 3 days after our manager got sacked following a Super Cup loss to Barcelona. If that sequence of events doesn't force everyone to confront how badly things have gone wrong, I don't know what will. The next few weeks will define whether this season can be salvaged or whether we're witnessing the worst Real Madrid campaign in recent memory. Based on everything we've seen so far, I'm not optimistic, and that hurts to admit more than you can imagine.